Everyone, this is meteorologist Joel Curtis from the National Weather Service with your Alaska Weather TV show. So starting out with our weather headlines, that high pressure that's been over the state for the last week or so is starting to weaken a little bit. And we're going to see weather systems dominate the Bering Sea, especially on Thursday and Friday. Also, mid to late April is trending to be a little bit cooler than normal. And I'm about to give you a sneak preview of our breakup discussion that's going to be held tomorrow. So looking ahead to tomorrow, the April snowpack is heavy statewide. Our cold temperatures are behind schedule. We have some concern about a warm snap in May, which would increase the chance for ice jams. And we want you to tune in Thursday, April 14th for that discussion. And we have a picture of the ice jam last year near Circle. So, starting out with our satellite image. First of all, you can see there's just a little bit more high cloud over the state, a weak disturbance aloft coming down, and then we have that weak frontal system that's approaching the southwest coast. Main surface low is out by Shemya, and then we have a secondary system south of AKwx that's just now starting to develop, so that we can see that on the satellite imagery. So now for today's weather, we've got that 1032 millibar high pressure system over the Gulf of Alaska. And we're used to seeing a lot of low pressure systems in that area, but right now with this big blocking high that we've had overhead, it also is, a portion of it is a 1044 millibar high that's north of the North Slope. And also the high pressure in northwestern Canada has slipped east and weakened to 1040. But there's our 992 millibar low out by Shemya, and the frontal system is approaching the southwest coast. A weak warm front has moved up toward the Bering Strait, but it's falling apart. But you can also see that down south of that low, we've got that little wave just now starting to form. And then for tonight, that warm front weakens as it goes over into Russia. In the meantime, we have that frontal system that's just now making it onto the coast, and it's falling to pieces. It's going to really weaken rapidly as it goes against this upper ridge. But the thing about that is that's the first thing that really tends to weaken the upper ridge as systems move up against it from the west. So then our secondary system down by AKwx is 990 millibars, and it's an open wave, and there's you can see that the system is rapidly developing and starting to generate some wind, particularly for the Pribilof area. And then also we still have onshore flow of the southern Alaska Peninsula with some precipitation. Then looking ahead to Thursday, now that low has deepened to 978 millibars, and that's northwest of Dutch Harbor. And then extensive snow and snow showers over the Bering Sea area, also approaching the southwestern coast, and some in the for St. Lawrence in the Bering Strait area as well. We have onshore flow and lots of wind impacting the Alaska Peninsula and also into the southwest, and that it would generally be rain on the Pacific side for that. And then following that, there's a little bit cooler air on the backside of this low, and we're seeing, again, a switch over from rain showers to snow showers as we get further to the west. In the meantime, the high in the Gulf has weakened and moved a little bit south to 1027 millibars, and there is a slight trough off the coast of southeast Alaska, and that has been consistent the last couple of days, and that's also weakening as well. But now turning to Friday, that low weakens to 980 millibars, but it's pretty much very, very slow moving, and it's near the Pribilofs. Extensive precipitation all around that low, mainly in the frozen form of snow. But we also have some mixed rain and snow showers that are now working their way into the eastern Aleutians in the Alaska Peninsula, as well as now onshore flow for the southern Kenai Peninsula and into Prince William Sound, and maybe even a little bit, certainly a chance of it, along the northern Gulf Coast all the way over to Cape Spencer. In the meantime, the high pressure system is now 1043 millibars, and the main center is north of the North Slope. So let's look quickly at some temperatures. We've got temperatures in the lows tonight in the Panhandle in the 20s and lower 30s. And then as we move over to South Central, the same, but except for 14 at Glen Allen. And then on Thursday afternoon, highs generally in the 40s all across the area. And then for Friday morning, we have, again, lows in the 20s and lower 30s for the Panhandle, and the same for south central Alaska, with the exception of Glen Allen as you get further inland, being about 15 degrees or so. And then what we've got for our high temperatures on Friday afternoon is temperatures well into the 40s for most of the Panhandle, except for 38 near Yakutat, with a little bit more cloud cover there. And then temperatures generally in the 40s for south central Alaska, as we have a little bit of warmer air moving up on the leading edge of that system there. So not looking for a whole lot of precipitation yet, but it's certainly going to keep temperatures warm even with the clouds. So now looking at our low temperatures Thursday morning along the North Slope, it definitely down into the minus teens as in the east, and single digits as you get further to the west there. Anywhere to the south, though, we start seeing teens and 20s. Fairbanks looking for a low of about 20 degrees. Nome looking for about a low of 30 degrees in all that warm advection. Then our high temperatures on Thursday afternoon, again, single digits along the North Slope, but on the positive side. And as soon as you get south of the Brooks Range, you're going to start seeing 30s and 40s all across the central interior. And then for Friday morning, our low temperatures again, negative single digits all along the North Slope. And then as we get further south, again, temperatures in the teens and the 20s. Looking like a low temperature for 17 for Fairbanks, and that's caused a little bit of a freeze thaw, but now those puddles are all going to have a good sheet of ice on them and probably freeze solid. So then for our high temperatures on Friday afternoon, again single digits along the North Slope. As soon as you get south of the Brooks Range, you start seeing the teens and in the 20s, and then finally get up to into the 41 degrees for McGrath. If we're looking for the southwest, our low temperatures Thursday morning, we've got temperatures generally in the 20s and lower 30s. As you go out the peninsula, though, you might see about a reading of about 40, but certainly in the 30s and 32 for the Pribilofs. And then for our high temperatures Thursday afternoon, well into the 40s for a lot of southwest Alaska, but still in the 30s out toward Nunivak Island. 36 for the Pribilofs, and definitely in the 40s for all the Alaska Peninsula and going out the chain. And then for our Friday morning, our low temperatures now looking in the 30s and a number of readings above freezing there. But then as we get further out in the chain, you might see a couple of temperatures below freezing, but generally in the 30s as we get out further to the west. And then for Friday afternoon, lots of temperatures in the 40s. So that's a little gradual warming there and will help us a little bit there. We would like that warm up to be gradual. And then looking along the Alaska Peninsula there, we've got temperatures in the 40s, except for 34 for the Pribilofs and 34 for St. Lawrence Island. So now looking at our 6 to 10 day outlook, we've got for April 19th to the 23rd, we've got below normal for the eastern sections of the state, including the Panhandle, and a little bit above normal as we get out toward Bethel and St. Lawrence Island. And then for our precipitation on the dry side again, like we were talking about yesterday, especially for the northwestern Alaska, and then getting toward normal precipitation for much of south central eastward, including the Panhandle, and then a little bit of a chance of above normal precipitation for the Ketchikan area. And then for our 8 to 14, still below normal temperatures for the eastern part of the mainland portion of the state, and that includes the Panhandle too. But note that getting a little bit warmer now for Bethel and the Dillingham area with a high percentage of warmer than normal temperatures. So that's it. Everybody stay safe out there, and let's watch this weather and be careful with those winds that are out in southwest Alaska. Thanks for tuning in.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Hi everyone, and now for your aviation forecast. Starting out with the flying conditions Thursday morning, extensive IFR over the Bering Sea, St. Lawrence Island, also the Nunivak Island down to the Pribilofs, most of the Aleutians, and a good part of the Alaska Peninsula, as well as an area of IFR moved into southwestern Alaska, and also Kotzebue Sound, Bering Strait, across the southern Brooks Range and into the central interior. Some marginal VFR now has worked its way into the Gulf as well as other portions of the state. For Thursday afternoon, some marginal VFR still persists over the southern Brooks Range, also down in the central interior, also in the Bering Strait area, but as you can see, we've got that extensive area of IFR with that weather system coming all across the Bering Sea and up into the Alaska Peninsula, and some marginal VFR for Kodiak Island. Then for Friday morning, we've got some marginal VFR worked into the western Brooks Range, as well as the Kotzebue Sound area and the upper Norton Sound. Some on the Seward Peninsula with IFR stretching through most of the Bering Sea, down through Bristol Bay, and also in Kodiak Island, and also some IFR has now developed into Prince William Sound. And then for Friday afternoon, that IFR condition still could occur with a set of weak fronts and the strong low out in the Bering Sea. This has got up to St. Lawrence Island, also the Nunivak Island down into the southwest, as well as portions of Kodiak Island, and some marginal VFR across south central and a good portion of the Gulf Coast. So starting with Anatuvik Pass, IFR in the morning becoming marginal VFR. Attican, IFR becoming marginal VFR. Lake Clark and Merrill Pass, both VFR, but as you get farther west, you're going to drop into some IFR and increasing turbulence in the west. For Rainy Pass, a VFR becoming marginal VFR. Windy Pass, marginal VFR becoming VFR. Isabel Pass, marginal VFR. For Mentasta Pass, VFR, but along the north, you'll be getting into some marginal VFR. Tahitna Pass, marginal VFR becoming VFR. Portage Pass, marginal VFR in the morning becoming VFR. And Chilkoot and White Pass, both VFR. For freezing levels Thursday morning, most of the state at or below freezing. However, we do have a couple of pockets of 2,000 feet moving into southwestern Alaska, Bristol Bay, the Alaska Peninsula, and then up into the central interior for 2,000 feet, as well as well south of Haida Gwaii. For icing on Thursday, pretty serious icing conditions. We've got an extensive area, isolated moderate, between 2,000 and 12,000 feet, covering the entire Bering Sea and the west coast of Alaska, including the Alaska Peninsula. And then we have an area of considerable moderate icing between 6,000 and 15,000 feet, and that's got a good portion of southwestern Alaska across St. Lawrence Island up into the Gulf of Anadyr. For our jet stream on Thursday, we've got an upper level high. I rarely have to put those in for that flight level, but we have an upper level high over south central. So northerly flow to the east, and not a whole lot over the state, about 80 knots or so, and then outflow winds about 40 knots at 30,000 feet over the Panhandle. But then we have the main jet as well south of the Aleutians, but the exit region is just south of Sand Point. And so what we have is anywhere from 65 to 80 knots of southerlies coming all the way up through the western ports of the state, including up to the Bering Strait. For our 9,000-foot winds, we've got really cranking around that low that's moved into the Bering Sea, 65 to 70 knots, and that's the cause of all the turbulence we're going to get. Drops off to 35 as you get up into the inland areas. 3,000-foot winds around 65 knots at 3,000 feet. That's pretty darn strong, and looks like it's going to hit all those ocean capes and be across Bristol Bay as well as the Alaska Peninsula, and then some northwesterlies following up the low across the Alaska Peninsula. Also, for our turbulence on Thursday, we're going to have to put some isolated severe along the Alaska Peninsula and then out in the central Aleutians as well to go along with that. Considerable moderate all across all of our islands in the Bering Sea, as well as southwestern Alaska and Bristol Bay.
It's kind of hard to explain how important weather is to our job. I mean, it really affects everything we do.
In 2018, NOAA launches the GOES-S satellite, which takes its place in orbit as GOES-17. Working together with GOES-16, the two new geostationary weather satellites will provide constant watch over the United States and the Western Hemisphere, from the west coast of Africa all the way to New Zealand, helping monitor severe storms, wildfires, and daily weather patterns. Since its launch, NOAA's GOES-16 satellite has already demonstrated its critical capability for keeping our nation weather ready. Throughout the active 2017 hurricane season, GOES-16 delivered imagery with detail and clarity never achieved before, with 4 times greater resolution than previous NOAA satellites, and delivered this imagery faster than ever before, helping forecasters predict the path of a storm and where and when it will intensify. These accurate and timely forecasts allowed for emergency managers to prepare for evacuations, map flood areas, and save lives.
So the weather matters. The weather matters before the weather happens, and the weather matters after the event happens, because what we're able to do to prepare, allocate resources, provide information to the public through the media beforehand, and what we're able to do afterwards, how and when the waters are going to recede, so we know we can get vehicles with life-saving food and shelter equipment down a particular highway. All of that depends on the forecast.
In the GOES West position, GOES-17 will be able to provide critical data for the westernmost United States, Alaska, and Hawaii.
We're talking about getting data updates in just seconds, so we can quickly spot wildfires and closely monitor the wind direction and their intensity. The crispness of the data coming in at a faster rate will also help with fog forecasts. We can see the moment the stratus starts to develop or when it starts to move out.
Like GOES-16, GOES-17 carries a suite of advanced instruments, including tools for sophisticated earth sensing, lightning detecting, solar imaging, and space weather monitoring. As an equal partner in the sky, GOES-17 will expand coverage of the advanced baseline imager technology across the Pacific Ocean, allowing meteorologists and local officials to see severe weather systems developing in real time.
So instead of seeing something, say, this large, that as you zoom in actually gets kind of blurry, you're actually going to see something that is much more detailed.
In its GOES West position, GOES-17 will be able to monitor conditions in the western U.S. like wildfires, coastal fog, and atmospheric rivers when storms from the Pacific dump heavy rain and snow over the western U.S. GOES-17 will have a major impact on fighting wildfires in California. Up-to-the-minute information and crisp detail allows forecasters to spot fires faster than ever before, even before the first 911 calls come in, and to better track and predict the path of large, dynamic, and dangerous fires.
It's amazing to see what we can get and at the level of detail and the speed that we can get the information down into the ground that makes our decision-making way more accurate.
With a view of the Pacific Ocean, GOES-17 will also provide a critical eye over shipping lanes vital to the U.S. economy, protecting cargo and passenger vessels from dangerous ocean storms. GOES-17 will also provide a high-definition view over Alaska, resulting in better weather forecasts and improved monitoring of sea ice, wildfires, and volcanic ash. The advanced baseline imager on GOES-17 can distinguish between clouds, sea ice, and snow cover, a critical need during Alaska's dark, cloudy winter months. GOES-17's geostationary lightning mapper monitors lightning flashes, including the in-cloud lightning most prevalent in severe storms, helping forecasters determine when a storm is forming, intensifying, and becoming more dangerous. Thanks to GOES 17, emergency managers will be equipped with more accurate weather predictions and faster warnings, providing a real impact, saving lives, and protecting infrastructure. Watching over Earth from 22,300 miles above, GOES S will provide vital data to our weather-ready nation.
Hi, I'm JPSS. I'm a high-tech weather satellite that orbits our planet. I do something called a polar orbit. I circle the Earth from North Pole to South Pole, over and over, while the Earth spins. While I do that, I get lots of information about what's going on around the globe. I watch storms, clouds, and rain. I take the temperature of the ocean, measure air quality, ozone health, and take pictures of the land and sea. This information is used for all kinds of things. It helps us take care of our coasts and oceans and all the amazing things that live there. It helps us monitor harmful weather events like floods and droughts and measure the health of the environment. Most importantly, it helps us predict weather 3 to 7 days in the future. That means I can be a big help ahead of storms, where future warnings are important. I send information to the National Weather Service. They use the information to create forecasts. The forecasts are shared with people all over the country to help prepare for weather emergencies. So you look to the sky and wave. I'll be flying by.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Hi everyone, and now for your marine forecast. Starting out with today's sea ice edge. Quite a retreat in the southwestern portion of the state, generally St. Matthew to the Pribilofs. First of all, a drop in concentration and signs of it really moving off toward the northwest. East wind will pull away shorefast ice and expect some breaking off right along the shore. For Thursday's marine forecast for the Panhandle, for the inside waters, 15 to 25 knots, seas up to 5 feet in Lynn Canal. And then on the outside waters, generally northerlies, 5 to 15 knots, and seas up to 5 feet off of Prince of Wales Island. And then for Friday, we've got generally northerlies on the inside, 15 knots, seas 3 feet. And then the outside waters, variable directions as that ridge approaches the coast. And we've got around 15 knots and seas up to 5 feet. For Thursday's marine forecast for South Central, we've got generally some westerlies, mixed bag, 5 to 20 knots on the outside waters, seas ranging up to 6 feet. And then for the inside waters, generally 10 knots, seas 1 or 2 feet, except for Kennedy Entrance with some easterlies starting to spin up, 20 knots, seas 5 feet. And then for Friday, now the wind really starts to ramp up toward the Kennedy Entrance with a gale force 35 knots, seas 13 feet. And then as you get further east, wind ranging 10 to 20 knots and seas up to 8 feet. And then for Upper Cook Inlet, 15 to 20 knots, seas up to 4 feet. For the peninsula and Kodiak Island on Thursday, quite a circulation around that low out in the Bering Sea. Gale force up to 45 knots south of Sandpoint, seas 12 feet, otherwise 15 to 30 knots. And then on the Bering Sea side, 35 to 40 knot gale force and seas up to 9 feet off of Coal Bay. Then for Friday, again, that circulation is tending to hold 30 to 25 knots on the Pacific side, seas ranging up to 15 feet. And then on the Bering Sea side, got some southwesterly starting to kick in, and there's probably a swell with that. Wind 30 knots and seas ranging up to 14 feet. For the Aleutian chain, generally westerlies until you get out to the eastern quadrant of the low. Wind up to 45 knots off of Unalaska, seas up to 12 feet there, up to 14 feet off of Kiska, and then on the Pacific side we've got 35 to 45 knots, seas ranging up to 15 feet. And then all westerlies kicking in on Friday for the Aleutian chain, generally wind ranging from 30 to 40 knots, and wind seas on the Pacific side 18 feet, and on the Bering side up to 17 feet. For the west coast, a lot of easterlies kicking in on Thursday as that system approaches. Wind ranging 15 up to 40 knots, seas up to 13 feet in the Pribilofs. And then as we get to Friday, again, that circulation around the low, wind ranging from 30 up to gale force at 35 knots, seas 13 feet in the Pribilofs. And then for the Arctic coast, we've got wind along the north slope, 10 to 20 knots. And then as you get further down toward the Bering Strait, we're picking up a little bit of easterly, up to 35 knot gale force. And then for Friday, we've got easterlies 30 knots along the north slope, and then again 30 to 35 knots in the northwestern coast, and all easterlies there. So for tonight's weather, we've got that low starting to spin up right around the center, right around AKwx or so, and then the front falling apart. And then later tomorrow, we've got the low develops to 978 millibars, good frontal system, and lots of wind, especially along those southwestern capes, and then high pressure in the Gulf. And then finally, for Friday's weather, that low starts to weaken again, but the wrapped up front does make it onshore for some precipitation and continued wind in the southwest and for the Bering Sea, and especially northwesterlies in the backside. And just one last thing I forgot to put in was the aurora forecast tonight. KP index 6, so if you get a chance to look outside tonight and you have some clear skies, get a look up and you might get to see some good northern lights. Thanks, folks.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.